Good morning, everybody. This is Pamela Parrish. I thought I'd get on here this morning and talk to you guys about the recent events of this past week. It isn't pretty. I know we lost DMX to a heart attack. Can't say that I'm a bit surprised. It's just something that happened, I guess. I guess all the years of doing hardcore drugs and not having the ability to kick that habit, it can be a pain. Trying to figure out my toolbar why it won't go down. So, see here. Let's see. Show the desktop and see what happens. Nope. Not a thing. So let me take this down, the Skype. So, yeah, you could tell I'm kind of working on things here. Finally got that damn toolbar to go down. But, I wanted to get on here this morning and talk to you guys about how not to throw your life away. Oh, excuse me. But, when you're in the business, such as Hollywood or music, drugs can be a massive killer. And that's exactly what happened to DMX this past week. He had a heart attack, collapsed at his home, and he's basically brain dead. Let me see what I can find out here about DMX. DMX death. Come on. Yeah. Let's see. Rapper DMX dead after catastrophic heart attack. Okay. This comes off NBC New York. And it says, rapper, in the bullet points, there's 3 bullet points of what to know. Rapper DMX died at the age of 50, his family has said on Friday. He had been hospitalized since April the 2nd after suffering a heart attack. An autopsy will be conducted to confirm his cause of death. He has long since struggled with addiction and has suffered asthma as a child. His family says memorial services are being planned. And he was born in Mount Vernon in 1970 in nearby Yonkers, and raised in nearby Yonkers. DMX released 7 albums, earned 3 Grammy nominations, and was named Favorite Rap Hip Hop Artist at the 2000 American Music Awards. So he was from the New York area, from what I hear. DMX, the raspy-voiced hip-hop artist who produced the songs Rough Riders, Anthem, and Party Up in Here, and was rapped with a trademark delivery that was often paired with growls, barks, and what? An ad-lib has died, according to a statement the family released on Friday. He was 50 years old. His real name was Earl Simmons. He had been on life support at a hospital in White Plains, New York, since suffering a catastrophic cardiac arrest on April 2nd. His longtime lawyer, Murray Reichman, said a cause remains under investigation. The rapper's family was by his side when he died. They call him a warrior who fought to the very end. He loved his family with all his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him. Earl's music inspired countless fans across the world, and his iconic legacy will live on forever, the family said in a statement. We appreciate all the love and support during this incredibly difficult time. Please respect privacy as we grieve the loss of our brother, father, uncle, and the world the man knew as DMX. The family said that they would share information on memorial services for him once the details are final. And then I think they have a video, or they have a picture. Fans remember the life and legacy of DMX. In a separate statement, White Plains Hospital extended its deepest condolences to the family of Mr. Simmons, as well as fans and legions of fans who expressed their unwavering support during this difficult time. Earl Simmons is his real name. He passed away peacefully with family present after suffering a catastrophic cardiac arrest. An autopsy will be conducted to determine his cause of death. He has struggled with drug addiction since he was a teen, first becoming addicted to crack cocaine when he was just 14 years old. Reichman could not confirm previous reports that an overdose may have contributed to his heart attack. And it says here, premature rumors about the rapper's death swirled on social media since he was hospitalized. As recently as Thursday, DMX's manager denied those rumors and asked people to stop spreading them out of respect for his family. Goes on to say here, meanwhile, the outpouring of love and support from the music and entertainment worlds has been flowing since his hospitalization broke, and more flooded social media feeds on Friday upon news of his death. Hundreds of supporters and family members held a vigil outside the hospital earlier this week. The crowd called DMX, DMX, and when urged by the main speaker, crossed their arms in the shape of an X. A woman's sobs reverberated as a popular recording by him was placed before the audience. His message of triumph over struggle, his search for the light out of darkness, his pursuit of truth and grace brought us closer to our own humanity. His record label, Def Jam Recordings, said in a statement, describing him as nothing less than a giant. Ja Rule posted on Twitter, prayers up, my brother DMX. Halle Berry has even commented. DMX, his gift meant so much to so many, sending love to his family. As it says here, he has released 7 albums, earned 3 Grammy nominations, and was named favorite rap hip-hop artist at the 2000 American Music Awards over the course of his storied musical career. He made a splash in 1998 with his first studio album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 album chart. The multi-platinum album was anchored by several hits, including Rough Riders Anthem, Get At Me Dog, Stop Being Greedy, and How It's Going Down. He followed up with 4 straight chart toppers, including And There Was X, Flesh of My Flesh, and Blood of My Blood, The Great Depression, and Grand Champ. DMX arrived on the scene around at the same time as Jay-Z, Ja Rule, and others who dominated the charts and emerged as platinum-selling acts. They were all part of rap crews, too. DMX fronted the Rough Riders Collective, which helped launch the careers of Grammy winners Eve and Scott Biez. His distinct voice and thoughtful messages in his rhymes made him one of rap's biggest stars. That trademark raspy delivery was often paired with growls and barks and what as an ad-libs in his music. Viola Davis has made comments and shared a picture. Rest in peace, DMX. I pray for all the comfort of your children and loved ones. Nice picture. Along with his musical career, DMX paved the way as an actor. He starred in the 1998 film Belly and appeared in 2000's Romeo Must Die with Jet Li and Aaliyah. DMX and Aaliyah teamed up for a comeback in one piece for the film's soundtrack. The rapper would later open Aaliyah's tribute music video, Miss You, alongside other friends and collaborators, including Missy Elliott, Little Kim, and Queen Latifah after Aaliyah's 2001 death in a plane crash at the young age of 22. The rapper also starred in 2001's Exit Wounds with Steven Seagal, 2003's Cradle to the Grave with Jet Li. So yeah. And there's other links to this. DMX, around the time that he was possibly still alive. DMX remains in coma, will undergo brain function tests. Manager, says his manager. A storied musical career and a troubled life. DMX was born in Mount Vernon, New York on December 18th, 1970. He was raised in nearby Yonkers and endured a difficult childhood, including suffering beatings at the hands of his mother, according to reports. A father at 15, his long-standing battle with addiction had been well documented. DMX said he got addicted to crack cocaine when he was just at the age of 14, after smoking a joint laced with it. In one of his final interviews, DMX had fought back tears while speaking with Uproxx, opening up about overcoming a difficult childhood. And he says, and I will quote it, he says, talking about your problem is usually seen as a sign of weakness, but it's one of the bravest things you can do, unquote, he said. While DMX made his mark as one of hip-hop's most recognizable names and for his artistry and as an actor, the rapper was personally stifled by his legal battles and was repeatedly arrested and jailed within a decade and drug addiction. So it says here, he had a good career in music and movies, but he was often a repeat offender and often jailed for his drug addiction. So, yeah. And it says here, he had pled guilty in 2004 after he posed as an undercover federal agent and crashed his SUV through a security gate at John F. Kennedy International Airport. He was arrested in 2008 on drug and animal cruelty charges, following an overnight raid on his house in Phoenix. He tried to barricade himself in his bedroom, but emerged when a SWAT team entered his home. In 2010, he was sentenced to a year in prison for violating terms of probation, and he was admitted to rehab numerous times over the last year. He said he had finally beat his drug addiction. First responders helped bring DMX back to life after he was found unresponsive in a hotel parking lot in Yonkers in 2016. The rapper said he suffered from asthma. And it goes on to say here, a few years later, he was sentenced to a year in prison for tax fraud. Prosecutors said he concocted a multi-year scheme to hide millions of dollars in income from the IRS and get around nearly $2 million in tax liabilities. After his release, he planned a 32-date tour to mark the 20th anniversary of It's Dark and Hell is Hot. But the rapper canceled a series of shows to check himself into a rehab in 2019. In an Instagram post, his team said he apologized for the canceled shows and thanked his fans for the continued support. Besides his legal troubles, he took the initiative to help the less fortunate. He gave a group of Philadelphia men advice during a surprise appearance at a homeless support group meeting in 2017 and helped a Maine family with its back-to-school purchases some years later. Last year, he faced off against Snoop Dogg in a Bruce battle, which drew more than 5,000 viewers. And they have the usual memoriam, people we lost in 2021. And that's it. He was a kid that grew up in New York and not in the best circumstances. And he probably did all those drugs to numb his pain from the abuse that he may have suffered. But, Yeah, he had one hell of a life, that is for sure. He's my, I'll be 50 in May, so yeah, that is sad. I mean, I'm hoping that he got some forgiveness for his sins here on earth, but you just don't know. I wouldn't know because I'm an atheist, but that's something again I'm not proud of, but I stand by what I feel and what I need to talk about. And, that's what I mean. If you have problems at home, don't self medicate yourself, and like he said, some people may think that if you talk about your drug addiction or pill addiction, it's a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of guts and great strength. You have to fight to get your life together. And talking about your problems is admitting that you have a problem and that you're trying to get help for it. Yeah. I just wish that people like Leif Garrett, for those of you that don't know, there are some people that get into the business for all the right reasons, and somewhere along the line they fall off the wagon. I mean, I've seen it with Andy Gibb, um, and other artists, and it's terrible. And I think about the one young man, I can't think of his name right now because I'm tired this morning, but people do stupid things that they wouldn't normally do if they were everyday Joes. But one guy, people even kill themselves. They do things that they normally wouldn't do. And DMX, I remember him from Romeo Must Die. Okay, he was the guy who said, "Y'all better get up out of here before it really get hot." He says, "If your ass ain't black, ain't none of y'all going home." And I have that movie on digital. I may watch it this afternoon, but I don't know. Um, that's where I know him from. That's how he had that something. He had that look that pulled you in. That if you didn't get out of a certain situation, he was going to light you up. And I just wish he had a good firm grasp on his life. Maybe he'd still be here. He had a family he left behind. I'm 50, it's too young to die. But, you're facing a rough upbringing. You had an abusive parent, and it just hurts. Again, he was physically abused by his mother. And that is something I don't think he ever really got over. And, it's just something that, he couldn't escape. Even if he says he did beat his addiction, I think the damage was pretty extensive because he's been, doing drugs since he was at the young age of 14. 14. You really have to be on the down and out to be doing drugs that young, and I'm lucky that I had two brothers that didn't go down that road. I mean, my twin used to smoke grass, but it never went any further than that, thank goodness. He gave that up when he got his life straight, got a job, got a beautiful honey that he's now married to. And, sometimes the rough upbringing can make people do things that they don't normally do. And if you don't have that, you have the stresses of Hollywood, the stresses of the music business, and too many people have gone down that black road of getting high, getting drunk, and some don't survive it. Andy Gibb is one big poster child of that. He was related to three brothers who were dynamos in the 1970s. And he was often called the baby brother to the Bee Gees, and that was a name that he disliked immensely. but he had to live up. Well, he thought that he could live up to the family name, or at one point in time, he thought he couldn't live up to the family name, and he got into drugs and alcohol. And yet, when you have an addictive personality, when family members try to help, they try to distance themselves from family. So he moved out to LA and got hooked into the party crowd, met up with Victoria Principal, and she said, if you don't clean up your act, I'm leaving. Because he already lost his young wife, Kim. She took the child that he had and left and went back to Australia. And he never saw his little girl again. He would often call them, but he never got around to seeing his baby girl. And a lot of people call Andy Gibb the deadbeat father. But I look at it this way. Mother took the child out of a toxic situation and kept her out of that lifestyle. And maybe Andy thought it was best that he didn't come around. He may have seen his daughter once before he died, but that was it. And again, the pressures of the business. He had 3 major albums. Shadow Dancing, Flowing Rivers was his first one. Shadow Dancing was another one. And After Dark was his final album. But due to his addictive personality, again, his record company dropped him. And then he started doing shows like Solid Gold. He was on an episode of Punky Brewster and did stage work like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. But again, when you're under pressure and you're wanting to please, but again, that addictive personality made him not show up for tapings, and he wound up getting fired. And then the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, his brothers were there on the night that he was performing, but then the next day it would start all over again. He wouldn't come out of his bed and he wouldn't come into work, so they had to let him go. And then when Victoria came on the scene, I don't know whether she was doing drugs with him or not, and I don't really care. It's not my business. But she tried to reason with him, and she says, the ultimatum: you get clean and choose me, or you could hang around and do your drugs. And unfortunately, he chose drugs. Then he went over to England. He got like a recording contract. He did what they call demos for a new album, which his brothers helped him with. And Island was going to take him on. So he went over to his brother's estate, Robin's estate over in England, to start work on the new album. And all those insecurities had come back and hit a major wall. He started drinking harder and heavier. And a couple times he was admitted to the hospital over there. And when his mother found out what was going on, she's like, I'm coming over there. Something's not right. So Robin's like, oh, come on, Mom, you're babying him too much. And she knew something was wrong. Moms have that intuition, Good moms have that intuition. If she knows that something is wrong, she's going to go over there and she's going to find out. So I think the last time he was admitted to the hospital, it was like a few days after he celebrated his birthday. His birthday was March 10th of 1988. He had just turned 30, and it was a party of 2, him and his mom. And when he went back in the hospital the last time, she wanted to stay in the ward, but over there in England, they don't allow you. She's like, I'll get a paper. I'll do whatever I have to stay with him. And they're like, don't worry, we've given him something to sleep. And he was fast asleep. So she went home. And by the next day, the doctor came in, wanted to take more blood from him to test it. He says, you mind we take some more blood, Andy? And he's like, okay. So the doctor turns around to get a syringe. And he heard this deep breath. And Andy collapsed and died. And again, addictive personalities are not good. There are so many people that are in the business that have died from drug overdoses. Jim Morrison was another one. A lot of these young people come into the business for the right thing, but they somehow fall off the wagon. And DMX is now part of that club that nobody wants to be in, especially when you die and you leave your family behind. Doesn't feel good. It really does not feel good. Just makes you realize how precious life really is. And if you fuck that up, then I don't know. Just seems like a giant clusterfuck, if you want to know the truth. Oh, man. It just seems like life is too precious to waste. I've always told you guys that, whether it's on this channel or my sharing news and music, I'm always telling you, life is too precious to waste. If you're having problems at home, contact somebody. If you're feeling suicidal, call the suicide prevention hotline. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody you care about. And like DMX says, the minute you have a problem, if you try to talk about it, some people see it as weakness, but I see it as a great strength. It lets you know that, hey, I have a problem and I need some help in battling it and getting over it. And I want to talk about somebody else who lived the party lifestyle and did alcohol and drugs. And that somebody is Chris Farley. Now, there's a giant in the industry. He's known for Tommy Boy and SNL, and his health really took a wallop. And around the time that he did the film Black Sheep, it seemed like he had his life going well for him. But then things started falling apart. That film, although funny and very, it was very funny and very lighthearted. After that, his film roles kind of went downhill. Beverly Hills Ninja is another one. It didn't do well. I thought that one was funny. But, that addictive personality can show up at any time because he was clean for a while. Then all of a sudden, after these less than successful features and stuff was happening, he lost his job with SNL. And then he got into drugs again. And he died alone in his apartment in New York. It's really, really sad. And he was, I think he was like 32 or 34. So he died young. And sometimes I think Hollywood and the trappings of it aren't good for addictive personalities. And I know David Spade lives with a big hole in his life because, they were great friends. And, you don't see good movies like Tommy Boy or Black Sheep anymore. But, I think they said after the premiere of Black Sheep, it didn't go well. And I think he got so upset, he trashed his room and just fell off the bridge. And then he died after I call it a hooker or a call girl, came to the hotel room. And I guess he got all hyped up on any drugs that he had. and she had left him alone. And he kept saying, "Don't leave, don't leave, don't go. I don't want to be alone." And then there's some people, people like him. He tried hard, but he couldn't help himself. And Leif Garrett, the one I talked about, he's known for the film Walking Tall and the song I Was Made for Dancing in the late 70s. And he's had a really tumultuous life. He had gotten into the business when he was young. I call it the David Cassidy syndrome. Back in those days, they used any pretty face that they could get their hands on to sell magazines and sell records if they could sing. Kind of goes with the territory. But he's lucky to be alive. He's still alive, but he's very lucky because at one point in time in his life, he and his best friend were driving down the highway and they get into an accident. And then another time, he paralyzed his best friend. I think he paralyzed his best friend in a car accident. Let me look that up. Here. Leif Garrett paralyzed his best friend. Oh, he died. Wow. Yeah. He died in 2017. It's on Find a Grave. Let's see. Tragic accident reveals family strengths. Won't let me read it. That's okay. But yeah, he died in 2017. I didn't know that. Yeah, let's see. Leif Garrett is still very much alive. He's going to be 59. He's going to be 60 this year. So he was born in 1961. So yeah, his best friend Roland Winkler got paralyzed in an accident. So let's see here. Yeah, here's his Find a Grave if you ever want to leave him a memorial. Because he tried to get, the guy I'm talking about tried to get his best friend help. Here's the young man that tragically died. Because he tried to get Leif help. He was on, I think it was Behind the Music. They had met up somewhere, and he had a heart-to-heart with Leif. And apparently, he couldn't do it because I don't think he ever went through with the rehab. So let's see what it says here about his best friend. They said he was born in 1960 and he died at the age of 57 in 2017. He was cremated. Locations of ashes are unknown. They say he was a kind soul, a dancer, and a musician. He was paralyzed from the shoulders down at the age of 19 due to a car accident in 1979 while riding in the car with pop star Leif Garrett. He was confined to a wheelchair for the next 38 years. His love of life, his forgiving nature, and kind heart inspired many over the years. He appeared in a VH1 special where he and Garrett were reunited after years of having no contact. He eventually regained use of most of his body after he regained use of most of his body other than his legs. He was able to drive, bowl, swim, and play water polo. He helped other paraplegics and sponsored many alcoholics and drug users. He was clean and sober until his death. He struggled with constant medical problems from the accident, which eventually led to his passing. He is survived by his mother, Joanne, brother David, and many relatives and friends. Roland will always be an inspiration to us all. Wow. I didn't know he died. Wow. That is crazy. But yeah, Leif Garrett paralyzed one of his best friends. Again, that nasty little monster of, come on, you know you need it. You know you need it. Would always pop up. And yet it ruins lives. It hurts families. And I'm hoping that Roland has found a peace on the other side. Like I said, I think he has, because as the writing states on, let's see. Yeah, I did post that. If you look on the Find a Grave, they said he was a caring soul. I don't think he ever really yelled at anybody, because that VH1 special, he was out, I think it was at a park somewhere, sitting with Leif, or Life, as they always say. He had this heart-to-heart talk with Mr. Garrett, and yet I don't think he went through with it. I think he tried to go through with it, but he couldn't complete it. So yeah, I mean, it's just really, really, really sad. Let's see what else they're saying here. Let's see. And it says here, let me see here. Let's see. From 1984. Here's an old article from 1984. You know, it's archived, but it says, a jury ruled on Monday that entertainer Leif Garrett was negligent in a car accident in 1979 that left his passenger a quadriplegic, and awarded the victim $3.9 million in damages. Roland Winkler, who was 24 at that time, had sought at least $5 million in damages, his attorney Edward Steinbrecher had said. The Superior Court jury reached its verdict on the third day of deliberations. Both men admitted in court that they had been drinking and had taken depressant drugs at a party at Winkler's home before the accident. The jury found Winkler to be 8% negligent because he drove in the car with Garrett, knowing the one-time teenage heartthrob had been drinking. Winkler was also not wearing a seatbelt. Winkler sued Garrett in January of 1980, claiming that Garrett was at fault in the November 3, 1979 accident that left Winkler paralyzed from the chest down. Steinbrenner said, let's see, and it says Steinbrenner said Winkler had 80% use of his arms and hands. Garrett, who has starred in several TV shows and motion pictures, including Three for the Road, had released 6 record albums, suffered only minor cuts in the accident, his attorney Stephen Freeberg said. Garrett was driving a leased Porsche in LA when he rear-ended another car. Garrett's car then rolled down an embankment, crushing Winkler. His license was suspended for that year and was put on probation as a result of the accident, Steinbrenner said. And the jury said that Garrett should be responsible for paying $15,000 of the damages because of his negligence. Garrett's insurance company will be responsible for paying the rest of the damages. Although Steinbrenner was pleased with the jury's verdict, it said it is a message to people who drink and drive. This decision not only sets an example for all drunk drivers, but for those who drink and drive with somebody drunk. If you're a drunk passenger, you could be liable too, Steinbrenner said. Garrett's attorney at that time, Stephen Freeberg, said it's up to the insurance company to decide whether the case should be appealed. So yeah, he paralyzed his buddy in a car accident. And it's horrible. Again, young, impressionable minds. People do stupid things that they normally wouldn't do if they were on the straight and narrow. That's just the way it is. But I didn't know Roland had died. I came across that Find a Grave, and I'm like, wow. But he turned a negative into the positive for the time that he was paralyzed. He helped other people that were struggling with alcohol and substance abuse. He was a sponsor for some people. And I believe that what they said in that little spiel on Find a Grave, that he was a good and forgiving soul, very kind, and just had a zest for life that most people take for granted. And I'm hoping that he has found peace on the other side. Won't know. I'm not going to dwell on it. But yeah. Well, I'm going to get off for now. I'm hoping you guys will watch the trial. I know I have gone through and cataloged at least 10 videos of the last 10 or 11 videos of the last several days of this trial. I'll get on here and I'll add videos every morning. If it has a waiting list, click on that and you'll get the video when it pops up. But I put it in a playlist for the Chauvin trial. I'm hoping you all will watch that. I'm not going to watch the defense case because I know it'll be just an excuse to try and get him off. What happened did not need to happen that day, back in May, about a year ago. A police officer holds the knee on the neck of a guy for over 9.5 minutes. Guy still died. He was screaming for, he was trying to get oxygen. He was begging for it. And Mr. Chauvin seemed very cavalier about what was going on. He didn't seem too distracted to me. We'll just have to see how this case pans out. But, I didn't see any real distractions. I didn't see none of that. I watched a lot of the video, and they were trying to blame the crowd. They were trying to blame drugs. But the only person that I could really blame here is the police officer. And it stinks. And even here in my city, we've had a lot of things happen. Yesterday at St. Anne's Hospital here, I think it was Mount Carmel, St. Anne's, a person had been shot. They brought a person into the ER, and I guess something went down, and it wound up having the suspect shot dead. Let me see here. Let me go to NBC here. Let me see. Shooting at Mount Carmel, St. Anne's. Yeah, let's see. From WBNS, the Dispatch, 6. Let's see what else. We'll go to NBC4. Because I trust their reporting more than anybody. Let's see. It says here. Let's see. Let me get this on the stream and then I'll read it. But a person had been shot at Mount Carmel, St. Anne's. I think it's up in Westerville. let's see. Yeah, Westerville. It says here, one dead, an officer-involved shooting at St. Anne's Hospital in Westerville. And they were on it since 2:30 yesterday, by the way. But it says, one person is dead Monday after a shooting involving multiple police officers and security officers in the ER at St. Anne's Hospital. According to Westerville and Columbus police officials, police responded to a call of a man passed out in his vehicle. They requested the medics, and the man was taken to St. Anne's ER with the officers accompanying him. And it says here, man on drugs broke 3 windows, trespassed at Ohio State House, troopers say. That was one of the highlighted stories in the article. Let's see. Let's get past that. Officers learned that the man had domestic violence warrants out in his name, as well as a weapons under disability warrant in Franklin County. So they found a man passed out in his car. They took him to St. Anne's Hospital. They found out he had some warrants on him. And it says, it's unknown at what point or how the man became armed, but the shooting involved multiple rounds with Columbus police, Westerville police, and St. Anne's security present. Police said it was personnel from St. Anne's and Columbus police who fired their weapons. None of the 6 officers involved was injured, but the suspect was. Emergency room staff did attempt to resuscitate the victim, but were unsuccessful. And Westerville Police Department Chief Charles Chandler said the suspect had died from his injuries. And there's a video attached. It's silent. So, and it says, just let the community know that this is another example of this type of thing that can happen anywhere, says Westerville City Police Department Chief Charles Chandler. Right now, all innocent folks, there is no one else in the emergency room who was injured. No other serious injuries except for the suspect. In a joint statement issued just after 6 last night, Chandler said a second gun was recovered at the scene. The State Bureau of Criminal Investigation responded to the scene. It typically takes the lead in officer-involved shootings. In a statement, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost, who oversees the BCI, issued the following statement on Monday night. Let's see. At the request of the Westerville Division of Police, the BCI will conduct a complete and expert investigation into the incident that occurred yesterday. In the early hours of the investigation, it was not clear what occurred. I appeal to everyone to let us gather the facts and complete the record. This cannot happen overnight. An investigation like this takes an average of over 400 hours. We will find the truth and we will fully reveal it. Yost said later yesterday that the investigation BCI will be conducting takes an average of 400 hours. St. Anne's is part of the Mount Carmel Health System. It's in Westerville, but it borders on Columbus. Its security officers are licensed by the state to carry arms. The hospital had remained open for visitors and patients. The full joint statement read by Chandler is in the article. Let's see. Law enforcement is investigating a police-involved shooting at the Mount Carmel St. Anne's Emergency Department around 2:15 yesterday. The scene is secure and safe. No officers or hospital staff or physicians were injured. Westerville paramedics transported the suspect to Mount Carmel St. Anne's Emergency Department yesterday morning after he was found with a medical issue. The suspect was found to have active felony warrants through the Columbus Division of Police. Westerville Police initiated a transfer of custody. During that transfer of custody, an altercation ensued, which resulted in the discharge of firearms from CPD and St. Anne's security. Emergency room staff immediately attempted resuscitation. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. An additional firearm was also recovered. They say the investigation is ongoing. Just down the street from the hospital, about 24 people gathered Monday night, chanting, questioning what happened at the incident at the hospital. The Brooklyn Center shooting in Minnesota, and also calling for police reform. Yeah, so, it's just a crazy world that we're living in. It is just a crazy world we are living in. So, yeah. Let's see. Let me check that and make sure. Yeah. But, life is not to be taken for granted. But, no place is safe. I watched some of the news last night about that, and there were a couple people in the hospital visiting with their relatives, and one guy said he saw a bunch of cop cars out the window and didn't know what was going on. And it's just a scary time. It's just a scary time to be alive. You don't know whether you're going to go to the hospital and get the treatment you need, or you don't know that some nut job could come into that very hospital and attempt to do harm on others. If he had just followed police protocol and not be an idiot, that guy wouldn't be dead. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to get off for now, get something to drink, and try and get things moving today. So, yeah. I hope you guys will read through some of those links that I posted. And maybe by tonight I'll get back on and do a couple of videos. So, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. All comments will be monitored. I think it's really, really sad. If it's not the drug problem, it's the gun culture, it's the mental issue, it's all of that, We need to start taking stock in ourselves. Nobody should have to die at a young age, and DMX was certainly young. Andy Gibb was only 30 when he died, and that was in 1988. And Roland, the guy that Leif Garrett had paralyzed, had died. He would have been 61 this year if he was still alive. So, yeah. And as I said, if you're having problems at home, talk to somebody you trust. And if you're feeling suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. They will help you. Don't be stupid and do something that I know you're going to regret later if you live to regret it. Because you're only hurting yourself and the family who loves you. Talk to you later. Bye.